I did it. Hey, everybody. It's Kate Richburg with Alfred T. Pickles. He's the biggest cat, and I'm winded. He wanted to say hello, though. There he is. So I thought I'd bring Alfred. Yeah, you're getting a lot of hellos, Alfred. Let me step back from the camera so you can see how giant Mr. Pickles is. There he is. Woo! All right. I've had my cardio for the day. Let me put him down. There. He's a giant boy. He is a whopper. That is something. Yes. All right. Whew. All right. He's a panther. Whew. All right. That was a lot. I just thought I'd cheer up your day by bringing that Alfred. I was having trouble getting my earbuds to connect, so I hope you all can hear me okay. I was trying to connect them, and then Alfred came out and started meowing and all of this business. So I'm without my earbuds today, so I hope that you all can hear me okay. He's a very mellow, happy boy who loves to eat. But don't we all? Anyway, so today, folks, I am going to continue our Kumihimo Odyssey. So I have been playing around with Kumihimo for the last couple of days with more strands. So I'm going to share with you what I've learned. I'm in the midst of creating a handout for you and taking some photos as I go along. It's going to be a good companion to this broadcast. So you'll be able to see, use that in conjunction. It has kind of the particulars of this broadcast. But I didn't want to put it out first because I wanted to make sure that I had everything covered. So it's a little bit of a work in progress, which I know you don't mind about that. So before I get started, and there's some questions about Alfred that I'll answer, but let me get over here and say that, of course, you can find us on all of our social media at beadshop.com on Instagram, at the Bead Table on Facebook, and you can hit that like, subscribe, notification, and don't forget the thumbs up over on YouTube. We really, really appreciate your engagement with our social media because it helps. The more engagement that we get, the more people find us. And our small little business here, we really appreciate all of your support, all of your likes and social shares, and of course, your orders. We appreciate you very, very much. Also, you can find all of the project and the products from today's broadcast. I have the beginning Kumihimo that I did a while back. And it's listed on the website in the Kumihimo projects. That's where this one will be listed as well. So you'll be able to find that along with the handout that I'm going to finish up for you. So let me get back to your questions real quick. I'm going to talk about my former Kumihimo, the new Kumihimo, the new stuff we have for Kumihimo. It's all there. So, and all of you all are here. It's great to have you all here. We've got Janice over on YouTube doing some moderating over there, and we've got our Gita on Facebook doing some moderating over there. So thank you so much for that. Alfred is enormous. He's at least 25 pounds. He's a big boy. He is not a Maine Coon. We have no idea what he is. He's just big. He has big paws like this, big paws. I don't know if he's a rag doll. I'm not sure what he is. We just know that we love him. And if you have been with us through the years, you've seen Alfred grow from a little 4-week-old kitten that I found under a bush to this monstrosity that we have now. So, but he wanted to say hello to everyone. one today. Okay, so let's get on this today. Let's see, there's another question. Janice, what was the question? I missed that, so maybe ask that again. Let me see. I missed it, but go ahead and re-ask it again, and I'll try and answer that for you. Okay, so, and if you did miss Alfred's big appearance, jump in. You can watch the replay, of course, especially on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see it. Oh, the Maradai. I'll have Emily back on. If you watched our first Kumihimo, it was the first one that we recorded a few months ago. Emily was on with me, and she talked about her Maradai, and she had a lot of samples, and it was a really great broadcast. So you can go back and watch that one. Today, I'm going to focus on the disc that we carry here at Beadshop. Okay. So, yes. Okay. So, let me show you. Let's switch cameras. I'm going to show you what I've got on my board. And let me first start by giving a caveat here. I am not the world's best Kumihimo-er, right? I do a little bit of it. I love it. I love to braid. It's really fun. But I'm not the end-all be-all. But I am going to share some of my discoveries. And I know that you and I kind of like to go on that voyage of discovery together. So we're bound to learn things. So pop in with any tips or tricks or anything you want to share. I am always ready to hear your experiences. But I really love it. I really love doing this braid with Kumihimo. As you know, I'm really into fiber. I love fiber. I love knitting and weaving and spinning and all that kind of stuff. Kumihimo to me is like the perfect marriage between fiber and beading, right? You're making a braid of the strands, and as you braid them around the disc, the braid that you're creating gets longer and longer, and you're able to add beads to that braid. So I'm going to show you how I do it. I think that Kumihimo also can intimidate a little bit. Terry's saying Kumihimo is absolute sorcery. She has a disc and then she has no idea. Flip this, turn that, all of that. It's pretty simple if you think about it in kind of simple terms, which I'm going to try and relate to you today. What I'm creating today is actually a sample, right? And I really urge you, when I tackle a new project, or I teach students and they're tackling like a new project that's completely foreign to them, I try and encourage you to create a sample, right? Something that you have no emotional connection to. Though I do have a little bit of an emotional connection to this because I'm like, oh, it's so nice, right? But I'm not too worried about the outcome, right? I'm worried because I want you to understand what I'm doing. Not worried, but I want to make sure that those directions are clear. But I'm not worried about it in the big sense of project, right? Because I can just create a short little piece, try my braiding, try it all out, try different beads, try different things, and then I'll have a little sample that I can go back and refer to. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to jump in. So if you haven't done any Kumi before, you may want to go back and watch the first episode or the first segments that I did on the Kumihimo. Okay. And so people are saying about how they don't understand the Kumihimo. You can follow the pattern. You don't understand it. Well, let me see if I can break it down for you. Okay. So let's take a look at what I've got over here. And I'm going to do my very, very best. Everything looks kind of like the dog's breakfast. It's kind of a bit of a mess here. We're going to get to this this is 12 strands. Okay, let me raise this up. And if you joined the bead table, our buddy Michelle over there on the bead table, Michelle has posted some of her really amazing Kumihimo. She's the Kumi master. I am only the Padawan or the novice here, but she is really, really amazing at it. And to be honest, I think, we all have to start somewhere, right? So I, jump in and start and practice and kind of play around, and the lights will slowly start to come on. Okay, at least they have for me. So we're going to get to this one with the 12 strands here in a second. I'm going to go back to this project for just a moment. Let me get our friends out of the way. Then I'm going to talk about our new Miyuki Drops, right? The new Miyuki Drops here in a minute. But you can use anything. But these drops specifically, we got them for Kumi. But I think Emily is going to do another bead crochet. You know how much we love Emily's bead crochet. This would be amazing for her bead crochet. I'm also going to try this out with some peyote stitch and stuff like that. So we'll see how these all come together. But I'm excited about it. Okay. So, Janice is asking me, am I wearing the meteorite earrings? I think maybe I am. I think these might have been called meteorite. They're just the brick stitch. I'm super into this brick stitch. I've had a single earring made for a while in these fall colors. Now it's getting into winter, but the fall colored ones are kind of fun. But these are, I'm pretty pleased with these little beauties. But yes, it's the brick stitch earring. And thanks to Emily and her amazing seed bead tutorials, I branched out from peyote stitch into new horizons. Okay, so let me show you. You may remember this project, and Janice, you're going to have to look for it. I'm sorry, I was too busy with Alfred and all of these strands and all of this from trying to remember what this project was called. But this was my beginner one. And this first one that I did, I used Chinese knotting cord, and I used size 4 Chinese knotting cord to make the braid. Okay, you can see that here. And what I did was I used regular size shadows, and I skipped, I did some plain braiding and some beaded braiding all the way down. And I made a couple of mistakes with my spacing, but you can't really notice them. I'm not going to worry about it. You're going to see what I did today. I just gathered the strands and tied a knot. What I did here on this one is I brought all the strands together. I did some macrame in the middle, brought them together, then I brought them under these large hold coil spacer beads, and then I started to do the Kumihimo. So doing the Kumihimo, if you have some Chinese knotting cord like I have here, okay? Oh, it's called As You Wish. Thank you, JP. I have some Chinese knotting cord here. This is 0.8 millimeter, actually. And the 0.8 is a great way to start because it's heavy, it's big, right? You can even try to get the braid down using like some rat tail, some shiny satin cord, right? But this 0.8 millimeter is great to work with, okay? Now, I'm going to try, this may be a bad idea, but I'm going to draw this out a little bit for you. And I want you to kind of stick with me as I explain the structure of the kumi. Okay, so let me move this aside and let me put this here. And I'm going to put this disc here. Okay, now Kumihimo is a braid. All right, you're creating a circular braid like this, right? There are discs that are flat. That are square to make a square Kumihimo for flat braiding. I have it actually right here. I haven't played with it yet, but this is coming next year. Okay. And you can see this flat braid does this here. And I really love it. It's super attractive. And I think it's really interesting. And you can create more like a ribbon or something with it. But so this is on my learning table. Okay. There are also Kumihimo discs. And I didn't want to frighten you yet, or maybe frighten me, actually. There are Kumihimo discs that have more slots. This one is 64. What I'm using today is the 32 slot. This one's also coming, but not yet. Okay. So let's conquer this one first. So the braid that you're making is a round braid that's hollow in the middle. Okay. And if you ever did those lanyards as a kid at camp, remember how those lanyards, they kind of were a 4 braid like this. Actually, it was single. Here, 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 and here. And you would bring it over the top and then and then bring that one over the top and then weave these ends in. So you got kind of like a checkerboard or kind of like a tic-tac-toe board design, right? Okay. This is the same. All right. It's the same, only it's like a step up. Okay. So, but it's very similar to that lanyard that we all did at day camp, right? Carrie said, yes, it was one of my favorite projects. Carrie, me too. I loved it. And I still do it today. I make it with leather. I'll have to revisit that because it's really fun to do in leather and kind of looks kind of elevated and fun. This recording, yes, it will be posted. Someone's asking. The recording, best place to find it is right on our YouTube channel. Looks like you're watching on Facebook. You can jump right over to beadshop.com on YouTube. All of these are archived. Then they have links to the materials and all that kind of stuff. So yes, it's all archived. Okay. So let me get this out of the way. Okay. So basically what we have here is our disc, and we've started with this one, 2, 4, 6, 8 strands of cord. Okay. 8 strands, and what I have here for you in today's, this is 12 strands. Okay. The number of strands that are on your finished disc, you cut half that amount. So if I have 12 strands here, I'm cutting 6 long strands of cord, 4 strands here. I'm sorry, 8 strands here, 4 long strands of cord. Okay. Let's look at the 4 again that double and give us the 8. So if you look at the structure, we're not looking at anything else right here. All we're doing right now is looking at the structure of this braid, and I'm going to braid a little bit for you. Okay. And since I stopped with 3 on the up. I'm going to go down. Now I've redistributed. I've also made that stitch, and I'm going to turn. Don't worry about any of this business. I just want you to see the stitches here. Can you see right here? I've got a pair coming out to the west, a pair coming out to the east or on my right-hand side, a pair coming down to the south, and a pair coming up to the north, if that makes sense. Okay. Take a look down here at the braid. It's a little dark. Let me see if I can move the light a little bit. I think you can see that pretty well. See how this cord that's going out to the west, this one's kind of going straight out from the braid, and this one is coming over the braid right here. Okay, like this. Okay, see how that that's what's creating the braid right there. So watch what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to start with my 4. Just kind of go with this. Okay, and yeah, if all of this business is like bugging you as you're working, you can tape over the top of it so it's not so distracting, right? It's okay. So I'm going to start, I always start Kumihimo from the bottom and go to the top. Okay, so I go from the bottom to the left. I'm bringing it to the slot, just from down here, flipping it up and putting it in the slot. And see how that has created that braid, that stitch, and it's coming over. If I have a bead that I'm going to add, or if this is a beaded strand, that bead is going to sit right there. Okay, like this. Then if I go from this bottom, I have to do the same thing from the opposite end, from the top. So I pull it out of the one that's all the way over. Undo this, it got a little twisted. And I pull it down. So see how that stitch is mirrored here and here. Now I turn my disc to the left. So I'm going to turn it to the left. You can also turn it to the right. You just have to be consistent in the direction. So I go to the left and I go from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom and turn. From the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom and turn. From the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom. And so what I'm doing with this 4 braid, this or 4 pairs, 8 strands, is I'm trying to go around the disc and I'll stop. I'm almost at a stopping point. And turn. I'm going to stop when my strands get back to these dots. Now again, if all of these words and numbers and everything are confusing you or it's visually too much for you, you can flip the disc over. The disc is blank on the back, and you can renumber it. I'll show you, I'll flip it over in just a second, but I didn't want to stop here in the middle of my braid. There we go. Okay, so now I'm back to where my dots are. I've done a whole round. I'm going to turn, and so I know where I am. I'm going to take this strand and pull it up. So I know that if I go away and pick this up, I start here by taking this out and pulling it down. So you can see here on the back of this disc, I have actually I haven't even numbered it. I just have done my north, south, east, west on this, and then I can just, put my cords out accordingly. Okay, so you can see I am braiding. The braid is just forming itself here. Okay, and you want to keep the tension nice and even so that you have this little stem, this little portion here in the center of your disc. Okay, so it's not leaning off to the left or leaning off to the right. Okay, so now that you've kind of seen that braid, okay, let me take it even further back to the beginning. Okay, and again, don't stress about making a really big project. Okay, just play around with the braiding portion if you're new. And so what I'm going to do here, this is a bigger disc. I'm checking it out. Some people have asked about the double density disc or the big, fat, wide discs. So they aren't on our website yet, but I'm going to use that one today just to have a fresh disc here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn everything over and I'm going to just mark. So I'll be working on the back end So you're not. So this is 32. This is number 16 right here. So this is my, what I call my north. That's what I call my south. That's number 24. So I flipped it. So I'm actually, this would be number 8. So it needs to be backwards. That's east. And this is west. And that's number 24. Okay, if that makes sense. Okay. So here, and this is all the markings that I need. This isn't the best pen to mark. I'm not like Emily where I have every single pen always at my disposal. Let me see if this is better here. And I can just make it a little darker. Yep. Nancy, if you're watching, these are the pens you gave me at the retreat. I have them right here at my design table. That looks a little bit better. I think you all can see this a little bit better. There we go. And I'm going to draw my arrow. Okay, so I know that I'm turning to the left. My mom was over yesterday and I was doing some riveting of purse handles for her. And I kept riveting them wrong and I kept threading them through wrong. I really, believe it or not, I am completely directionally challenged. I can, like, I know my left from my right, obviously, but sometimes I still have to hold my hands up and go, oh yeah, L, that's the left one. It just is how I'm wired. So these visual cues. So yesterday when I was putting the bag handles together, I kept putting them in backwards. So I really had to watch my direction to make sure I was going, threading them through in the correct way. Same thing with these discs. Okay. Having these little visual cues and this turn to the left. So I know that when I rotate the disc, I'm following that arrow. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. I'm not sure. Let me, I hope we're good. Okay. Sorry, I didn't put the do not disturb on mine. Let me show you what that pen, Nancy, maybe you can chime in. I'll show you what these are. The pen, it's called Sippa. It's a Japanese pen. They're so pretty and they mark really, really nicely. And they came in a whole bunch of different colors. And Nancy brought them to me at the retreat. Look at how pretty they are. So I love pens. So it's called SIPA. I like them a lot. So, and I like these other ones too. I use these a lot too. This is the Stabilo, the fine point ones here. So anyway, that was that question. Patsy had that question. Okay. So we've marked our disc. Now I'm going to show you how to, cut the threads and do these threads for a 12 braid. Okay, here was an 8, but we're going to add some and we're going to do 6. Okay, so yes. Oh, that's so funny. Let me show this here real quick. Those who do not crawl very long have trouble remembering left and right. Those in a hurry to walk did not get the left-right instinct. I think I went from sitting down to walking. I think that's exactly right. I didn't crawl much. I'll confirm it with my mom, but I think my mom has said that. That is true. I was not a crawler. I was like, I'm up and I'm walking and I'm talking and I'm learning my alphabet right away because I had things to do. Anyway, that's an interesting observation. I'll have to ask her. So let me show you, we're going to do a tester. I used c-lon for this. Okay, this is regular c-lon. You could use your Chinese knotting cord if you wanted, but I wanted to use our new Miyuki Drops, which looks like this. Okay. So I needed a thread that was thin enough. So that's this thread right here. Okay, that's what I used. And plus, I like the looks. It kind of has a bead crochet kind of feeling to it when you use this thinner thread. This one, the As You Wish that I did, this has the Chinese knotting cord. And then you can see I stopped it here, and then the rest of it is just strung. So it's actually, you could wear it as a necklace to layer, or you can wear it as a stack like this. Okay. So I use the regular c-lon, plenty of c-lon here to use. So what you do, and I'm going to make this a shorter strand. I'm not going to do a super long strand for this, for the demo purposes. So I'm going to lift it up, and this, your bead tray, this tray is about 14 inches. So I'm going to go about three lengths and cut. Okay. And I'm looking, I can't cut if I don't have thread snips. There they are. Let me move that out of the way. Grab these thread snips. So I'm going to get 4, okay, like this, or 4, sorry, I'm going to get 6 strands. So there's 2, and I'm just going to measure it out like this. Here's 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2, 4, and 6. There we go. There's a good question. Terry, you have this question, and I don't know, it might confuse me a little bit, okay? This is actually the cerulean color, JP, that I'm using here. But Marina is also close to it as well, but I used cerulean, this color, okay? So, so I've cut the 6 strands for my 12 strands that I'm putting on this disc. Okay. If I were just using 4 strands, like this one here, 8 pairs, I'd only cut 4 strands. Does that make sense? So Terry's asking, would there be any value when you first start your learning sample to use a different color for each strand? I mean, you could, but these are doubled. So you could use like 2 and 2. It might, as you're setting things up, it might be a little more confusing. What I would do is I would learn how to read your disc. I think that's an easier way to learn, because then it forces you to look at your threads, and so that your threads aren't twisted and stuff like that. I hope that makes sense. So I probably wouldn't change, but you could. Okay. So, okay. Alice is saying she usually uses cord about 3 times the finish length, and her D is sticking on her computer. So yes, that's about what I do too, is about 3 times the finish length. Okay. So what I do is, with these cords, these 6 cords that I've cut, these long cords, I fold them in half at the center point, and I tie an overhand knot. Okay, like so. All right, this is all going to be taken away later, so it doesn't have to be pretty. On the piece that I did previously, this As You Wish piece, and I wanted it to be finished, and I wanted to be able to put a button through that finished loop because we didn't have a lot of clasps for Kumihimo. I was just playing around with the braid. Okay. So what I did, instead of tying the knot right here and having these loose threads, I laid it out flat and did my macrame over it, came together and put them under those spacer beads. Does that make sense? And then I used it. I made the loop large enough. I'd chosen my button. And so it's a button and loop clasp here. But we've also launched yesterday, because you all wanted some Kumihimo clasps. We got some new ones in. We have this barrel clasp and this kind of larger barrel clasp here. I'm gonna continue with this, and then I'm gonna give you the close-up of these in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna measure them and give you some more info on those, but let me keep going with this. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is this is the trickiest part, I think, right? Is to get everything in the disc sectioned out and tensioned correctly. Okay. So let's go ahead and put our little bundle. Oh, and I need to make sure that all of my threads are cut over here too. Right now, I'm not worrying about beads. I'm not worrying about bobbins on the end like this. I'm not worried about that at all. Okay. I'm going to clip everything. I'm not even worried about evening this out. Okay. So now I'm going to, let me see, there was another question. I just want to make sure that if there's another, hang on, sorry about that. I thought there was another question I'm missing. Well, if there's a question that has to do with this, folks, just ask it again. I'm sorry I can't see it because I'm the camera person and the talent. Okay, let me get back to this. What I do is I hold this knot kind of in the center, and I've got my left hand under the disc, and I kind of hold that there, right? So it's stable. Now, since this is a big bunch of threads here, I kind of try and isolate two that are on this top side, if that makes sense. So things aren't twisty down in the hole here. Okay. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to take those two, and I'm going to put them to the north. I'm not even talking about the number here. Okay. I'm putting them to the north. And then I'm kind of pulling this down a little bit, not too much, actually. Now I'm going to grab two that are going to go to the south. So I'm going to take some, put these strands over here, some, put these strands over here. So see how it's not twisted, right? They're kind of flat, okay? So I'll kind of put these two, look like they go up here. These two look like they go over here. This one looks like it goes down here, right? They're kind of flat. Let me kind of pick through these strands. I think it's this one. Okay, that looks like it goes to the bottom. Now, if you're not sure and you can't see it and you're like, Kate, all I have is a giant nest of threads here. I can't make sense of it. Doesn't matter, right? Just place them and then we can fix them later. Okay, so let me put my threads to the south. Okay, there we go. Now, this is where things aren't as cut and dried as they are with 8 strands or 4 pairs, right? Because I've got 2 pairs on each side. So I don't automatically go to the west and to the east, okay? I have to distribute these strands on this half circle so they're even, okay? The size of c-lon that I'm using is regular. This is regular c-lon, and I'm using the cerulean color here. Any of the blues would work. You could also go down to fine if you wanted. It's going to make a smaller braid though, okay? But the regular is what I'm using. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute these across here and make them even, or as even as I can, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these 2 over here. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 slots away from north. And I'm going to count 4. I've got Alfred hair. That's what I get for picking up the cat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and put it in the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. And in between here, I'm going to have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine. Okay. But that's how this is going to look. But notice my tension is like wonky, right? All of this is pushing over to the west. I need to get this back over to the east to center it. But don't worry. All I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3, 4. Count 4. Put it in the 5th. Count 4 from the south. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it in the 5th away. Right? So I'm not even looking at the numbers on the disc. Okay? But see how this core, the center, is all the way over there. So let's just loosen this up, kind of pull it. So I've kind of brought it to the center. And then I kind of tighten everything all at the same time to try and center it. Okay? Now, let's look at this one that's coming here. Can you see how it's twisted? How these are coming out like a little highway. See? Like a little sunbeam from here. But this one's twisted. So I need to change it here. Okay? Now it's no longer twisted. So now you congratulate yourself and we go and we reward ourselves with a beverage. No, I'm just kidding. Let's put that down. And let me look at your comments. Michelle has, our Kumihimo guru here, has a tip for you that I want to share. Michelle says, I cut a piece of paper just smaller at the disc than the disc to come under the numbers and cut a hole the same size as the hole in this disc. She glues it to the disc with a glue stick. That way you only see the numbers and slots. Very smart. So what she does is that piece of paper is covering all of these words here, right? And then the hole is here. Okay, so you can do that. Really great tip. Okay, great tip. But let me turn this over so we're on the plain side. All right. So now we're just going to braid. We're not going to even worry about beads right now. Okay, let me get this one out of the way. There are weights, and we may add the Kumihimo weights to this to our product lineup, I have one here. This is what it looks like. Okay. And it's like a little alligator clip on a weight. What I've been using is I've been using our clampers here. Okay. And so the clamper, what I do is I just clamp this down, and usually that clamper is heavy enough, at least for the size beads and the size cord that I'm using. I have a feeling that and Michelle, you can confirm this, as your cords get heavier, your weight is going to need to get heavier, because it's the weight that pulls everything down to make your braid straight. Okay, so these heavier weights here, you can see you just clamp it on, and it's a lot heavier for sure. I can feel that weight being a lot heavier, pulling that down. So for now, I'm going to take this out because it's a little long. Let me raise this up, and I'm just going to use my clamper that I've been using. And again, you could just cover this with tape or whatever, but I think Michelle's tip of just using some paper and gluing it down over this is a good one. Okay, so let me flip it over. There's my weight. So now we're going to start. I start from the south position, and I go up to the top. Michelle is saying, and that's great too, bag of coins work well. She could use tablecloth weights from the dollar store. That's also great. I could make a little baggie and clip it in here. So there's all kinds of ways that you can weight this down. For me, this clamper was enough, but Janice is saying we'll add those weights just so that we have them. They're kind of slick, right? With that little clamp there. Works nicely, and you could add some more weight here down at the bottom at this hook if you needed to make it even heavier. Okay, so I'm going to start at the south. I'm going to go from south to north. Okay, so I start from the bottom, and this is how I do it. Some of you may work in reverse if you're turning it to the right. Okay, but I'm turning this to the left. So I'm going to take my bottom strand and bring it to the top in the one directly above and over one. Okay? Now this one here, I go from the top, I bring it directly across and over one. Okay? Now I turn. Now I'm here. From the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom, turn. Now I'm on my last set. From the bottom to the top, and from the top to the bottom, and turn. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. Then we're going to talk about beads. Okay, so now I've done 2 connections. I'm going to go around one more so that these threads are going west and east. Okay, so I'm going to go one more round. And the hook is nice because, yeah, you can add more weight. Alice was saying, and I know that you folks, the two of you, Alice, you and Michelle, are much more accomplished at Kumihimo than I am. So I appreciate your insight here. That the weights here make for more tension and a better braid here. Okay. So what I've done here now, I've moved from the north and south plane, and now these threads are going from the east and the west. Okay. If I'm putting this down, okay, what I do is I stop. I just want to reiterate this. I'll stop before I stop, I'll bring my thread from the bottom up to the top and I'll stop there so that I know when I come back, I've walked around, I've done whatever I've done. This third cord here needs to come to the bottom. Okay, so I can put it down. Pardon me, I can put it down and then continue at a later date without getting confused. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put it down for the moment and I'm going to string a bead on this one so I know that's where I've stopped. Let me grab a bead. And do this. Okay, so I know that when I come up, it's going to be this one here. Okay, and I'm also going to kind of do this to give myself a hint to take this one down and this one up. Okay. Okay, so what I've got here, it's a little hard to see. Maybe if I turn it to the side. I've just gone this round, just 2 rounds. You hardly see any of the braiding here. So what I would do is I'd give myself a little bit of a tail. I'd go all the way back around so that my strands maybe come back to the original position here, right? Just give yourself enough braid so you've got at least maybe like a 1/4 of an inch or so somewhere there. So you've got a little bit of a header, okay? So, and there's no bobbins or anything on here, right? Let's move to this one. This is the one that I've been working on that has, let me turn it over, that has the beading on it, okay? And the beads that I've used, you can see I've used 3 different beads here. I have used, where are they? Oh, there's, let me switch trays. I have used, now they're all mixed up on this, right? I've used our new Miyuki Drops. I've used some 8/0s and, no surprise, little shadows in copper. And I also have that barrel clasp in copper here. So I think this is a good time to talk about bead sizes. So let me grab my caliper. It's over on the desk. I was sending a whole bunch of new product out yesterday. So I had to measure. And of course, the caliper is across the room. So let me grab it. Let me show you the sizes. So we got these new Miyuki Drops in, and we got them in a whole bunch of colors. I just love them. And what they look like is they're a drop bead. And can you see that? How? There's the drop. Can you see that shape? So that the hole, there's kind of a bulbous end, and the hole is at the top, okay? And there's a space, the hole doesn't thin down super thin. There's a little bit of space there, right? So that the space that's here on the drop, that top portion is about it's hard for you to see that caliper, but it's about 1.3 millimeters. Coincidentally, our 8/0 beads, they're a little bit bigger. These are like 1.7 millimeter, but these work nicely together. Some of the drops, you're gonna have to look at them because they're not all perfect. See how this one has no little top? There's no hole there. So that one gets thrown away. Sometimes they're super skinny up at the top. The space between the hole gets really super skinny. And sometimes they get kind of fat. So you want to look at them, right? So this is the 3mm. Janice is saying it's the 3mm Miyuki drop with an inside hole diameter of 0.65 millimeters. So see how this one, that's 1.7 millimeters. This one's a little closer to that A-dot size right up there, okay? So I wanted to use beads that all kind of were the same size-ish or in the same size family. So that's why I used the drop, the A-dot, and the little shadow, okay? I could have done this whole thing with just the drops, right? But I wanted a little bit of a pattern here, okay? So let's take a look at how the beads go on. I'm going to clear away like this bead mess here. And we're going to take a look at the strands. Of course, these are mixed, but that's okay. They were all laid out nicely, and then I walked this velvet pad here to the filming area, and now they're all mixed, but that's okay. All right, let me get these out of the way. There is a little bit of variance. Terry's saying she's surprised by the variance. The roquels, or the round beads, they also have a little bit of variance to them if you look at them pretty closely. The little bit of variance that's at the top of these beads honestly doesn't make that much difference. We're really looking at them like under a microscope almost, literally, right? So a little bit of that variance doesn't make that much of a difference in the project, okay? But I just wanted to point it out so you'll notice it. And if there's something that's super skinny or super wide, you might want to reject it, at least for this. Now, the strands, what I've done here is you string both, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the camera. And also walking over here, I didn't put my bobbins on, so this, you know, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to bring this back. And I'm going to put the beads on this one because this is what I'm dealing with at the bottom of the other one. So I can untangle it, but I don't want to take your viewing time to untangle this. We want to put these on bobbins, definitely. But I didn't because I was playing around with the beads and what they look like and stuff. So that's what I get. Anyway. So since I've strung this white bead or this rainbow ivory bead on this one, I'm going to go ahead and string the beads on this. Okay. And I'm only going to string like 5, I think, not to take too long for it. Okay. So I'm going to lay this flat. I've got my one bead there. Let me get my ivory. And I'm going to string 5. 1, that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, and I'm going to use a 6th one. I'm going to tie one at the end for a stopper. Okay. I'll put this on bobbins, but I'll show you that later. Hopefully this won't get too tangled. Here's my last one. Let me tie it on as a stopper. Okay. And this one comes down. I'm going to put that one right there. I'm going to lift this one up and I'm going to put my 5 beads on this side. Now, when you're braiding or when you're doing your braid, every sequence of the up and down all the way across engages only one of your pair of threads. It engages the thread that's on the outer side here, right? This thread here that's to the right, this thread isn't going to move until I go all the way back around. And I'll show you that. Bear with me here just a second and you'll see, because this thread, you're only braiding with half of the pair at a time, if that makes sense, per round. Because once you engage this side and bring it up, it puts this thread in the number one position. Okay, if this is number one and that's number two, number one goes up, number two stays, number two comes down from the top, and then number two becomes number one. Might be a little confusing, but I wanted to mention it. So here's my pair here, and I need to do the same on the opposite end. Okay, I'm going to string the same color, the same bead on the opposite side. Okay, you can do this at the very beginning too, after you've placed all of your threads. I just did that braiding so you could see it. Okay, so it might have been a little out of sequence, but it doesn't really matter. You can braid until you want to add beads. And the cool thing about Kumihimo as opposed to bead crochet is you can add your beads, if you want, as you go. So on this disc over here with all my tangles, I put on 20 beads. I wanted to see how far 20 beads would get me, and then I could add another 20 beads, later. This I'm only adding 5 because in the interest of time. Okay, so this is one color here. And let me do this. We're doing okay on time. And again, this will be on replay, so you can watch this again. Kumihimo is definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? The more you play around with it, and I find this, I haven't picked up Kumihimo in months, few months anyway. So getting started this week with the project, it was like learning how to ride a bike again. But it comes back pretty quickly, right? So here's my next pair. Okay, so I've got the white here and the white here. So now I want to choose another pair. So I'm going to do these, this one and this one, and I'm going to rotate it so I know that those are the ones I'm working with to put my beads on. I'm going to use, I don't know, I'll just pick one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use drops next. Okay. So I'm going to string on 5 drops per. 1. You could use a needle if you wanted. This c-lon is pretty stiff, and the holes in all of these beads are pretty big, so it's not too bad. Though if I were doing this in real life, I would, and not on a demo camera for you, I might stiffen these ends with a little bit of zap or use a needle. 2, 4, 5. There's my 5. And see how the little drops are just laying down there. Okay. So let's get this. And whoops, tie this last one on. And this will be very easy to untie. It's just a square knot. So now what I want to do is I want to put this back before I take the one next to it out. I have to be fairly methodical with this because if I'm not, I lose my place like almost immediately. So if you take a thread out, it's got to have a home before you move on to the next one. And stringing, the prep work, pardon me, like anything else, is always the most tedious part. Okay. And it's certainly tedious when the one that I prepared is now one big tangle, right? So there's that. Okay. So now I flip it to the opposite pair. And I'll add my drops on this side. Okay. I appreciate all of those likes and social shares, folks. The more, the way that the social media algorithm runs is the more interaction and engagement the piece or the product, the video gets from its viewers, the higher it goes up in the algorithm, right? And the almighty algorithm is what drives us because we want to engage new people and have new people find this beading content. We're super grateful for those of you who watch our lives and have watched them, whether you're a newer viewer or a viewer that's been watching us all 6 years. We really appreciate it because we're a small business. We've been around since 1982 and online since 1996, if you can believe that. It's crazy to think that we were such a pioneer in the online beading business. We sold our first items online, I believe it was in 1998. Crazy with classes and stuff. But we're still a small company here at beadshop.com. So we really appreciate each one of you as you engage and support us. We really thank you. So I'm going to come in, and if I get confused about where this one goes, does it go over here or does it go over here? I need to make sure I can count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that is right. Across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's right. That's where this goes. So now my drops are on. Now I'm going to turn one more, and we're going to put our shadows on. So I'm going to take just like this. I go from the bottom and I put this up. Oh, Curtis, I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Helping many of us get through. It helped us too. Curtis is saying it helped many of us get through the pandemic. I will tell you, remember in March of 2020 when we went into lockdown? I didn't know what to do. We had to send our staff home. Chris and I were coming to the office, and it helped me going live those days. Helped me focus, I think, as much as it helped you as viewers. At least I think it did. It really kept us focused and focused on the goal, which is spreading creativity. Those were interesting times. We're still living in interesting times. COVID has not left us, but it has changed and morphed, and we're learning how to live with it, right? The world is a big place and a big kind of unknown place. So we have to well, we don't have to, but we need to. I don't know. That's also not the right term, but it's good, I suppose, is what I should say, to try and be able to adapt with the times and pivot and be nimble. That's what we try and do. And that's what, you can do as an artist too, The only constant in life is change. There we go. Whoops, those were going on and then they fell off. So those are my sage words this morning. Let me get a couple more on there. We're almost done putting our beads on. Thanks for sticking with me on this. You can always watch the replay, and if you're watching on replay, you can certainly fast forward to the part where we start to do the braid with the beads, but I'm almost there. Flip it around, go to the pair that's on the opposite end, and we're going to put them on here. There are stands. Some of you are talking about stands to hold these type of discs and stuff. I probably need to do a little bit of an internet search on that. Or if anybody has a stand that they use or have made, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. The way the maradai is used, the traditional Japanese kumihimo, the big braiding tool apparatus, is it's a freestanding stand, and it has the disc on the top, and then there's a big wooden stand that it's all kind of one big thing. And so it's kind of a big thing to use. The discs are a little more nimble, right? They're a little more portable. But you also have to kind of hold them in your hand. There is I think there's a handle that you can get for the Kumihimo discs that look like this. I don't know how helpful that is. I think everybody kind of finds their own way with their Kumihimo technique. So here we go. We've added all of our beads on. Okay, let me raise the camera a bit so you can see this. I also have a couple of essential tools here that when I do the beadwork, I have a darning needle here that's a kind of a blunt point that it helps me to move my bead into place. You can use your awl for that as well. And I also have a pair, they were here a moment ago, here they are, of bent nose tweezers. That also helps me to get my beads in place. So let's go ahead and start with beading. I think I ended here on the W. Let me move these beads over. Okay. So I'm going to start by taking my bead from the bottom, or my strand from the bottom, but in this case, I'm going to slide a bead down towards that braid. Sometimes I just put my finger on that bead to kind of hold it there, because where I want that bead to sit, you can see these two strands that are coming here. You don't want that bead to flip up and over this pair or this pair. It needs to sit right there at the base. Okay, so now I'm going to take the thread from the top and go to the bottom. Okay, and this number 2, see how that was number 1, it went up? My number 2 strand at the bottom now becomes my number 1. I slide that bead down, kind of wiggle it into place. Sometimes I just add my thumb there to hold it in place, and then I put my strand away where it goes, and then I turn to the left. Now, can you see how these beads, how they're just kind of sitting right in their own little space there? Don't worry about them too much. Hopefully they'll take care of themselves as you add more beads. All right, so we're just gonna press on. We're gonna take this strand from the bottom, slide our bead in, put my thumb on the bead, and put the thread up in its little house, in its little slot. I'll take the strand from the top, get my bead, slide it down so it sits in between these two threads, not over, coming to the other side. Put my thumb there to hold the bead in place and put my cord in. Okay? And now I turn. Now here's our last style of bead, our drop. From the bottom, slide the bead forward, put my thumb there, put the strand away in the slot, pick it up from the top, slide the bead down. Now it's the drop portion of this bead that's going to sit. I mean the whole portion. It's going to sit there, and the drop, the bulbous part of the drop, is going to automatically fall to the bottom. Okay, so don't worry about, I find that the more I screw with my beads, the more I confuse myself. So can you see how these beads are all just kind of, whoops, see, I screwed with it and I flipped it forward. I need to get my little, there we go. And see, this one flipped forward. Get back in there in that little space between the threads. Maybe I need to use my tweezers. Because if that bead falls forward, loosen the tension a little bit. Slide it back down where it goes, and then tighten the tension. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't screw around with these beads too much. Okay? So now I'm going to turn. Okay? So here's this. I come up, grab my thread. This is now that thread that was in the number 2 position that's now in the number 1. I'll put my thumb on that bead and put it up. After I do this round, and I'm going to go a little bit faster, I'm going to show you the beads coming out from the other end. Since I've done 3 beads, what we're going to make is kind of a 3-stripe pattern. See, my bead jumped the boat here. So I want to loosen the tension, push that bead back in between like the V of that space there, and then I'll tighten it back up. There we go. So it's in line. Now we'll turn to the left. We're on the shadows. A shadow from the back. I can get to now the tension, the portion where I don't need to put my thumb on the bead, because I can kind of feel how tight this thread should be as I bring it around. See that there? This one's a little, that tension's a little tight. There we go. And turn. There we go. Loosen that up a little bit. Now we'll bring a drop. I see, Lynn, you were having trouble commenting on Facebook on the live stream. It may be a Facebook setting. I can check the settings. I haven't changed anything. Facebook changes their settings for live streaming so frequently that I just can't keep up. So we use a third-party service for our streaming. So it may be that something has to update or whatever for the settings. So I'll check it afterwards. I'm glad that you're able to come here and comment on the YouTube feed. So sorry about that. And then I'll do one more round with the one last one with the shadows. And see, I'm going to pull this tension down as I did that, of course, this bead. Jump the boat. There we go. And I've turned and we're here. Okay. That's going to come and go up. See, that bead just catches underneath. You don't want it to jump or else it'll end up inside the braid and not on the outside. Okay, so there's that and that. So now I've gone all the way around twice, and let's move this. Let me tighten everything up. I'm going to flip it over and we're going to take a look down the hole here. And can you see, it's hard to see, but see how our beads are going in a diagonal line. Okay, I'm going to go one more round. I ended on a drop, so I need to go to the white. Here's this. Let me just do one more round real quick and then we'll look at it. And then I want to show you the clasps. Sorry, this is taking a little longer today, but I really wanted you to be able to see the process of this, right? So that one's there. And then I'll come around with this one. And slide this one down. It also may be, depending on where you're watching the Facebook feed, it could be if you're watching it in the group or on our regular page, there may be some settings that are off with that. So I'm going to turn. We're going for the drop. Whoops, I turned it the wrong. Where's the right? You know, I'm here. This one's, there's something here that's off. That's off. There we go. I'm going to stop it right here. And let me grab this other one so you can see it. Okay? You'll be able to see I think, much easier here. See how your beads are starting to create a diagonal line all lined up in a row here. See that? These little, there's the blue ones. And see this white one here. If you see anything that's off, like this one isn't quite facing the right way, there you go. You can just kind of get your tweezers and turn it a little bit so it falls into line. There we go. Okay? So that's basically what you're doing, is you're creating a diagonal line. I like using the different beads for your beginning one, using 3 different beads, because you can see where those beads go. Okay, so with these, with the 12-strand, I've used 3 different types of beads. I've used the shadows, I've used the 8/0, and I've used the Miyuki Drops. Okay, let me show you real quick the clasps, and I'll show you what how to kind of determine what you need. And we'll revisit this again because I want to braid this length, and then I'll show you how I glue these in. But essentially these are glue-in clasps. So once you get to the end of your piece, there's my clasp. I'm going to move this over so it doesn't get in my way. Here's the clasp here, and you can see this opening of this clasp. The inside diameter is about 4.5 millimeters. This is saying it's about 4.6. The outside is almost 9 millimeters, and at the center, again, almost 10 millimeters there. Okay. So you can see the magnets, the way that these are done, they're a magnet like this. So when I glue my end in, and let's just use this one as an example, mine is going to be a little larger here than this size. I would come in where the loop is. I'm going to add some glue by that knot, taper everything down nice and tight, add some glue on the interior here, and you can see this goes fairly deep. It's about a little over 1/8 of an inch, not quite 1/4 of an inch or so right there. Can you see that? So I'd add my glue inside, and then I'd just come in and glue my Kumihimo rope on the inside. I'd measure, do the same thing, and then glue it here on the other side as well. You want to be really careful when you're gluing with these ends that no extra glue comes in to glue these clasps closed. And then if you're using heavier cord, we have these nice bigger clasps as well. The inside diameter of these is 7.4 millimeters. So if you're doing larger ones, or you could also, Lynn is saying, you could use several strands of leather for this in here, you know, as regular necklace clasps, they'd also look great. This Kumi clasp here is fairly deep. See how deep that clasp goes, right? So you can get a lot of your Kumihimo rope inside here. The length on this clasp, it's almost 23 millimeters, 22.5 millimeters. The length on this one, it's a little smaller. It's good for a bracelet, almost 11.5 millimeters here. Okay. So these are a lot of fun to play around with. We have some more Kumihimo clasps that are coming. You're going to see some more. We've got some sliders, some other things that are coming as well. We're just adding them slowly as we find them and as I test them, and to find ones that we really like. I love the look of this hammered clasp. I think it's really nice. So I hope that this has helped to demystify some of the braiding, the 6-strand braiding, and how it differentiates from the 4-strand. I'm going to have that little handout up for you in just a couple of days. We'll complete the project page. Janice will go ahead and link the products that we used in the description below in our YouTube video. But just as a reminder, we used the c-lon in regular. I used the cerulean. I used the, let me get the number of that bead. Here it is. I used the 8-4691, the rainbow ivory, and then I used the Picasso Seafoam Green Miyuki Drop, and then I used the shadow beads. I used the little shadows, not the regular shadows. So I hope this helped. For those of you who have done the 4 strands with the 8 strands on the board, I hope you can graduate up to the 6. If you're new to this, go ahead and drop down to just using those 4 strands, 4 pairs or 8 strands of beads, and or of cord, and you can just jump in and just do cord. Do a little bit of braiding, then add a few beads and see how it works out for you. But again, Kumihimo is a marathon, not a sprint. So keep practicing. I want to know how it goes for you. And I'll revisit when this is ready for that clasp to be glued in. I will go on and show you how to do that. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. On Friday, we have a special treat. Emily's going to be here, and we're going to talk looms. We're getting ready for her big looming project at the beginning of the year. So she's going to demystify the loom for you. We've got our big Ojibwa loom that we have just launched earlier. And I think you're really going to love it. I'm going to show you how to put it together, all of that. So I think you're going to enjoy it so much. So again, thank you all for watching today. You can find all of the information on the project and the products from today's broadcast right on our website at beadshop.com. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for all the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products. December is chock full of new stuff. We're getting ready for the new year for 2023, and boy, do we have some fun stuff planned. Also, find us on our social. Help us raise that signal so that we find other beaders who might enjoy this content. Follow us on Instagram at beadshop.com. If you do use something with Beadshop product, please give us a tag, and we would love to add you to our stories on Instagram. You can join us at the Bead Table on our Facebook group. We have a wonderful group of beaders over there who are super helpful. There's a lot of great samples and community over there. We'd love to see you there. And of course, folks on YouTube, please hit that like, subscribe, thumbs up button, share, do any social shares that you feel compelled to do, because folks, I'm really striding towards that 100,000 followers. We're so close, and it would mean the world to me to reach that 100,000. So thank you so much, as always, for all of your support. I will see you on Friday with Emily, and we're going to talk looms. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.